the topic today is a time of change. So I want to make a little change from last week for sure, because the reason I'm not sitting down today is because evidently I got very comfortable and we talked for about 40 minutes last week. So we're going to truncate that a little bit today. I'm having so much fun with you, and I'm really honored that you're here and sharing some time with me. There's just so much coming through, and I'm just absorbing it as the weeks go on and as the days go on and the hours go on. They're filling my mind and my heart with this new communication that's coming through from Jesus. I know that sounds weird. Yeah, but he told you a long time ago, he says that you're never going to be alone. I'm always going to be with you. And we finally graduated enough that we can open up a little bit. And some of us, Richard Greathouse is one of those people. Ari Perone was channeling A Course of Love with Jesus. Of course, Helen Schachtman back in the 1960s was opening the first door and was channeling Jesus as A Course in Miracles. And so this third trilogy, A Journey into the Unknown, is just blowing my mind, because there's always more. There's always more. So, if you think you got A Course in Miracles down and that's all you need, I get it. There's a lot of people that haven't let go of that Bible yet, right? And momentarily it stumbles upon the truth from time to time. But that got us to a certain place. The First Testament got it to a certain place. It was a stepping stone. The New Testament got us to another place, another stepping stone. A Course in Miracles, huge stepping stone, about 1,600 years later. And now this trilogy, this epic trilogy from Jesus, is helping us to see who we are. And this indeed is a time of change. And it's not just in what's going on outside of us as much as what's going on inside of us. Because as we begin to understand the true narrative, the real narrative, what Jesus was trying to teach his disciples many years ago, and was never truly in its true form communicated to us, and was shifted and changed by those who had their own motivations, whatever it may be. But we are timeless after all, right? We're timeless, and we don't have to be in too big a hurry, but I feel like I'm in a hurry because I want to get this, right? So I wanted to share just a couple of nuggets, and I would love for you to join the conversation. With the videos that we'll play on Tuesday night is about 30 minutes. Did that one pique anybody's interest this morning? That maybe you want to learn a little bit more? Yeah, it's just beautiful. And the woman that's reading it, Richard Greathouse is who channeled it, but the woman that's reading it was a dear friend of his. And I just love the pentameter and the tone of her voice. It's very soothing to me, and it's tireless. I don't get tired of listening to her voice. So anyway, we sometimes, we've been going through this, I guess, for several weeks now, but we started with Secrets of the Unknown, which was like 6 videos. But the first, and that was book 15, so we were skipping ahead a little bit, right? And there were just 2 or 3 of us, but I would love for more people to join us. And so I'm making a commitment to begin this Tuesday night with this series, which is book 1. And it's 190 chapters. But before you get, too resistant to that, each chapter is only about 6 minutes, right? 5 or 6 minutes of reading. But they're compiled in about 5 or 6 chapters per video. So each video lasts about 25 minutes to 30 minutes. So what we do is we just come in, hang out like we are today, and crank it up, and then we just listen. And then after that, we have open discussion. And there's so much richness in it. There's no way for me to even get close to, revealing much of that here in the few minutes that we have on Sunday mornings. But on Tuesday nights, we can sit and talk about it. And there's a lot of stuff coming up for people, right? There might be some stuff coming up for you if you listen in and say, wow, because it shifts what we've been conditioned to believe about our relationship with God, the bigger picture. Why are we really here on the earth? What is our real purpose here? Wouldn't you like to know that, rather than just trying to figure out how to pay the bills, right? So there's some real richness in this, because it gives us a much bigger view of why everything is that's happening. But a couple of things that I want to share with you is that this is not just Jesus communicating, but there's also some others, some names you might be familiar with, like Saint Germain. He was one of the super souls. I'm learning some new language I'll share with you this morning. So what we're learning is that there were, I'm going to say, a first generation of micro droplets that became Godheads. And another term for those are super souls. And those super souls then became our teachers, right? They're already awakened. They were already masters as they graduated through their process. And then we are that second generation, we, the human race, if you will, here on planet Earth. We're that second generation. And so they are, in essence, our teachers, our masters. We could even use the term parent, though it doesn't really fit necessarily in a physical way, but just as one who came before us and took on the responsibility of guiding us through our own journey. And what I love about the story is that ultimately we become individuated. As we are, we begin to graduate. So we start out as micro droplets of God, right? And so when you really look at a micro droplet and the expansiveness of God, it seems like a micro droplet doesn't sound like a whole lot, but oh no, you're very, 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 very powerful because you are, even as a micro droplet of God, unbelievably creative. And you've been experiencing your creative power your entire life. And the misinterpretations that we've gotten of that power, the controls that have been placed on us, and the oppression that we've experienced in the world is to keep some people who have discovered how powerful we are, and they've been able to contain that and control us to a degree. But the shackles are breaking loose, right? We have the internet. We can communicate across the world in an instant, unfettered and untethered. And so that's changing everything, and Spirit is using these tools that we've been gifted with, that are beginning to manifest, to be able to communicate with each other, not just like this setting, which is so, so precious, to be in personal contact with each other, but also in this technology that we have to bring this great news, and it is indeed a great news. It's taking us to a whole new way of understanding our relationship with God. And so each of us as micro droplets, starting out as micro droplets, after just a few hundred lifetimes, you know, we're graduating and we're beginning to realize who we really are. And one of those first things that happens then as we become in recognition of our true pathway and our true power is to start letting go of the ego construct, the ego mind, the identity as an individuated self. And we here use the term ego for that. Ultimately, as we continue to ascend, we will be able to make a choice here in the future about, in other words, in future incarnations, if you'll allow me to say it that way, about whether or not you want to return to this dimension or continue to travel on to other dimensions. But this is a premier landscape here. Planet Earth was designed specifically so that we could come here and experience a reality of being in physical form in a 3D world, a 3D dimension. Imagine, if you will, how Spirit was working together with the super souls when one got the idea or all got the idea simultaneously. I'm not sure how that works really. What would it be like if we could create a third dimensional world where we could become present there and experience 3D form, experience touch and smell and taste and sound in a whole new way, in a physical way. So let's create a universe of physical form and putting all of the pieces together. Can you just think about it? What that would be like? How much would have to go into the planning and the visioning and the creation to create what we're experiencing right now. It was intentional. This is not an accident. There are no accidents. This is very intentional, what we're already experiencing. And here we are in the time of change where this transition now to a whole new experience is underway. And one of the other things that is coming through in this messaging that I think I might have shared it with you in that long conversation last week, but that those who are not willing to step upon the pathway of spiritual enlightenment, and they just want to hold on to being the egoic mind and control the world and use their brothers and sisters to their own benefit. These are all the constructs of the ego, of course. Well, because in the you know, I was always told that God was perfect and everything's perfect and we're the ones that are screwing things up, right? But it's not, because there's such a thing as free will and there's such a thing as creativity. You know, when you leave today, you get to decide, once you get to the end of the street at least, if you want to go left or right? You have free will to do that. And so many people here have chosen a pathway which has caused great harm. We don't have to look too far. I mentioned it last week because last weekend was the first news about the war in Israel. And I'm sure there's not one here who hasn't had to even maybe push back some of the images and some of the news that we've seen this week. It's been horrific. And it's really hard to get our heads around, as she said in that opening statement, you know, how could God be so hateful to God? And so it's hard to understand this, yes? So these teachings that are coming through right now are helping you and helping me to understand these things that are happening in a much more clear way, so that we don't get too caught up and get tripped into false ways of identifying with what's happening and fall into our habitual patterns of judgment and criticism and joining in the action of war. Brother against brother, sister against sister, family against family. There's a better way of doing things. And you know that. You already know that, or you wouldn't be here. And many, many, many more millions of people are following you and me and Jesus and this teaching into building a new world. But Spirit is saying, they are now kind of drawing a line in the sand and saying, okay, they've always practiced perfect benevolence. In other words, you got to choose where you wanted to go on every incarnation. Yes, you've made other choices, but why wouldn't you want to come to the premier landscape? And we have. But in the future, those people who have made a commitment, those human individuations, if you will, those egos who want to make the commitment to the ego and want to make a commitment to that mind and that thought system, will not be allowed to come back to this landscape in future incarnations. So it may be, it's not a form of punishment. It's just a decision that Spirit's making, saying, well, we're going to draw a line in the sand here because my children or grandchildren are growing up. They're practicing and they're evolving, and all of this negative warring and all of this has been going on for centuries and centuries and thousands of years. Enough of that. And that's keeping us from being able to. And Jesus, I remember saying through Paul Tuttle several years ago, it's like if his message had not been so contaminated, we would all have already completely become masters or enlightened at this point. But we've been following false narrative for millennium. And a time of change is here now. So Spirit is saying, nah, we're going to make a change. We're going to start to compartmentalize some of the ways that we are being, so that we are not going to be continued to be hampered by these negative thought processes and these negative thought systems. So I hope you join me in seeing that as a very wonderful and very positive thing for all of us. You know, I've been here for a few decades, and it just doesn't happen like that, right? My life, I can look back on it and see it like that, but boy, it's taken a while just to get to the point where I could even begin to understand some of these things. And the best way for me to understand these things is to be with you and join with you and my wife, Reverend Claudia, into continuing this conversation. And we are not out here making stuff up. we have true guidance now that's available to us. And so I personally am really excited about honing in and focusing on that. And that's going to help dispel a lot of the doubts, a lot of the questions, a lot of the concerns that we have. And I think it's going to enhance the things that we've already learned about how loved we are and how capable we are of loving each other and seeing each other's perfect innocence. We have that capacity. It's well within our capacity to do so. So I'm really looking forward and hoping that you'll join me and True Thought, the community, on Tuesday nights, and that this becomes an ongoing legacy. There are 22 videos of that first book, and so we're going to have 22 weeks. Come and join us. It's like 6 months. We'll take a break for Christmas or something, but it's hard to stop. It's really hard to stop because there's so much joy, there's so much love. I cannot tell you. I know last weekend I was sitting up here crying all day. Just so much things, so much going on, so much transition going on. And I've it's been such a tearful week of gratitude. There's so many blessings that are happening for all of us. And once you begin to see it, once you begin to recognize this vibrational field of love, once you begin to really feel it, and unless you can feel your whole body resonating with it, it becomes so easy to recognize. It's such a joy to see how much love I feel in this community called True Thought. And we are only weeks old. We're only weeks old, right? And I know that this message is something that's important. And Spirit, the Holy Spirit, if you'll allow me to use that term, which is nothing more than your right mind, is of course according to Course in Miracles. But Jay says that Spirit's job is to direct people to you if you are learning and becoming a teacher of truth. And so as we join together here at True Thought, and the phrase, thank you for mentioning, it might have been Rich, I can't remember, I think it might have been you, but True Thought actually is a phrase that came from A Course in Miracles. And it comes through in several times in my study of A Course in Miracles. And so eventually that was given to me, through my guide to be the name of our ministry, this True Thought Ministry. And we began in July 1st in 2020. So while we're not brand new ministry, we certainly are new in Naples, and we're new in our wish to build a community here in Naples. So again, we're honored and so excited that you're here. I know that Reverend Claudia is going to bring back some monumental stories. She's gone through a lot of transition too. And one of the most important things that she's learned, and I've watched it happen, watched it unfold, is the shedding of things. So when she went over there, real quick story, when she went over there, she had this new suitcase, right? I think some of you helped, and she had stuff all lined around the house, and she was packing the best way to get everything in there. And she was there, I think it was only the second day that she was there, and she said, well, I'm going to have to send this suitcase back. I've got way too much stuff, So she's little by little, it was a big move on the first week, but little by little, she just keeps letting go of stuff. And every time I see a picture of her, she's carrying less and less. Her backpack is almost non-existent now, right? And when she's sleeping, she just the bare essentials. So travel lightly, travel lightly. And if you find an opportunity this week to let go of something, try it out. It's very freeing to let go of all of these things in form. It's extremely freeing to let go of these things. We're moving, and so we're going through letting go of a lot of stuff, right? And it's just another chapter in our life, and we believe a monumental chapter in the beginning of True Thought Spiritual Community, and we're so honored and so grateful that you're here. So with that, I will not talk for 40 minutes today, and we're just going to continue on with some love and some hugs and some conversation. I'm so grateful, and thank you so much for giving me a few moments to share a little bit with you. I love you so very much. God bless you. Have a great day.